Because it's fun, yeah. Yeah, but there's always more to know. There's always more to know. And then there's more to know. Prabhupada says that Krishna expands, and then his knowledge expands. And then Krishna expands, and then his knowledge expands. So his knowledge is always trying to keep up with himself. So there's always more to know. Right? You say Anantasesha, he can't stop talking about his own glories because it just keeps going on and on and on. So it's not like Krishna comes to a point and he goes, yeah, now I know everything. Everything's boring. I know all the Vedic scriptures, right? The Samaveda, the Rig Veda, all the Upanishads, all the Puranas, all 18 Puranas, you know. That was pretty funny. But it was false glorification. I couldn't even list from memory all the names of the 18 Upanishads. What to speak of telling you what's in all of them. Somewhat. Oh, I do too, but they're in my room. Well, that's why you get it wet first. Everything, yes. Everything. I know how to build bridges and the history of Uzbekistan. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Asatara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesa Sanyavadi Paskatyade Satani. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Vanchakalpachubhischa Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 61, Text 6, and it's April 7th. 2025 in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Pradyugamasana varahana pada socha Tambula vishramana vigyana gandamalyai Kesha prasara Sayana snapano paharyai Dasi shata api vibor vidadus madasyam. Please chant. Pradyugamasana varahana pada socha Tambula vishramana vigyana gandamalyai Kesha prasara sayana snapano pararyai Dasi sata api vibor vidadus madasyam. Pradyugamam anavarahana pada socha Tambula vishramana vigjana gandamalyai Kesha prasara shayana snapano paaryai Dasi shata api vibor vidadus madasyam. Pradyudgamasana varahana pada socha Tambula vishramana vigjana gandamalyai Kesha prasara sayana snapano paharyai. Dasi shata api bivor vidadusma dasyam. Pratyudgama, by approaching. Asana, offering a seat. Vara, first class. Arhana, worship. Pada, his feet. Socha, washing. Tambula, offering betel nut. Vishramana, helping him to relax by massaging his feet. Pijana, fanning. Ganda, offering fragrant substances. Malyai, and flower garlands. Kesha, his hair. Prasara, by dressing. Shayana, arranging his bed. Snapana, bathing him. Upaharyai, and by presenting gifts. Dasi, maidservants. Shataha, having hundreds. Api, although. Vibho, for the Almighty Lord. Viradhusma, they executed. Dasyam, service. So this is a description of the queens. BBT translation, although the Supreme Lord's queens each had hundreds of maidservants, they chose to personally serve the Lord by approaching him humbly, offering him a seat, worshipping him with excellent paraphernalia, bathing and massaging his feet, giving him pan to chew, fanning him, anointing him with fragrant sandalwood paste. Actually, ganda just means any kind of, anything that's scented. Adorning him with flower garlands, dressing his hair, arranging his bed, bathing him, and presenting him with various gifts. BBT purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that Sukadev Goswami is so eager to describe these glorious pastimes of the Lord with his queens that he has repeated these verses. That is, text 5 of this chapter is almost identical with text 44 of the 59th chapter in this canto, and text 6 is identical, which is today's verse, with text 45 of that chapter. So if you look at that verse, the Sanskrit's almost identical. It's just a couple words different. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that the term varahana, excellent offerings, indicates that the queens offered the Lord palmfuls of flowers, pushpanjali, and palmfuls of jewels, ratnanjali. We're going to read the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This verse describes the queen's actions of menial service to express their love, anubhava, having Krishna as the object of their prema. They offered Krishna the best items, vada ardhanam, such as handfuls of flowers, pushpanjali, and handfuls of jewels, ratnanjali. Srila Jiva Goswami says sometimes prasada is seen instead of prasada. In this order, they served him. Varadhana refers to sprinkling handfuls of flowers, popped rice, and jewels. Sridhar Swami refers to descriptions of their service in the first canto. So just a little side point, which I bring up whenever this happens, how Srila Jiva Goswami gives an alternate Sanskrit word. He says that generally the verses say prasara, but some versions of the Bhagavatam say prasada. So as you know, the scriptures were originally passed down through oral tradition and then written on leaves. And something written on leaves doesn't last very long. Yes? Even today we call pages in books leaves. But a leaf doesn't last very long. So it has to be copied. And there were brahmanas who did this copying because it had to be done exactly properly. But of course, variations can enter. So how do we know that the Bhagavatam we have today is the same Bhagavatam that was there thousands of years ago? We know this because there's 81 commentaries on the Bhagavatam, and the people who write the commentaries, they quote the same verses. By the way, we do not have this information for much of the other Vedic literature. So to be extremely careful if you're going to quote things from other parts of the Vedic literature that have not had these commentaries, because when they're copied over, there's changes that happen, and people may insert or delete whole verses even. And so what our acharyas do, what the commentators do, Srila Prabhupada also does this, is when there's a difference, they'll note this word in some versions of the Bhagavatam, it's this word. Or sometimes an entire verse is added or an entire verse is deleted. Prajugamana sanavara. Easier if I do it this way. Prajudgama sanavara hanapada socha tambula vishramana vigjana gandamalyai kesha prasada sayana snapayo paharyai dasi sata apibhavo vidadusmadasyam. Although the Supreme Lord's queens each had hundreds of maidservants, they chose to personally serve the Lord by approaching him humbly, offering him a seat, worshiping him with excellent paraphernalia, bathing and massaging his feet, giving him pan to chew, fanning him, anointing him with fragrant sandalwood paste, adorning him with flower garlands, dressing his hair, arranging his bed, bathing him, and presenting him with various gifts. And we were reading that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this is the anubhava of the queens. So again, to understand what rasa is a difficult word to translate. Prabhupada said he couldn't find an exact meaning. Rasa means taste, the enjoyment we get from something, the experience of something. And this rasa, in order to have rasa, you need to have 5 parts. If you can think of it, like to have a pizza, you have to have crust, sauce, and cheese. You have to have at least 3 parts or it's not a pizza, correct? So if you just have sauce and cheese, it's not a pizza. If you just have crust, it's just bread. You understand? And then you can have more ingredients also. You can put eggplant and whatever. So in order to have rasa, you have to have 5 ingredients. And you have to have the staibhav, that's stai means to stay, the basic relationship, that which doesn't change, which Prabhupada translates as continuous ecstasy. And there's, of course, 5 primary staibhavs: neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental conjuga, and there's 7 secondary, like wonder and comedy and so forth. And then there has to be some impetus, the vibhav. What stimulates this relationship? So there's the object, Krishna. There's the other similar devotees, right? So the other queens, perhaps even some of the maidservants, they have a similar mood. And then there's the transitory emotions. So you have a basic relationship, Krishna is my husband, but then there's sometimes wonder, there's sometimes anger, there's sometimes even laziness is one of them. So there's all these 33 different transitory emotions. And then there's ways you express your relationship. So there's ways you can express it involuntarily, like your hair stand on end. Right? You see your husband doing something wonderful and your hair stand on it. Or you just start crying. And then there's voluntary ways you show your relationship. So the voluntary ways are the anubhav, which Prabhupada calls subsequent ecstasy. So you have to have these 5. The basic relationship, what stimulates the relationship, transitory emotions, involuntary expressions of that relationship, and voluntary expressions. And when you have all of them, you get rasa. So we actually, in this list, I'm sure you notice that in our Hare Krishna movement, in following devotional service, we do a lot of these, don't we? Don't we do this? Do we anoint the Lord with fragrances? Do we put on flower garlands? Do we decorate the Lord's hair? Do we arrange his bed? Do we give him various gifts? Do we give him a seat? Do we do this? Are we doing this? Yeah. We're all doing this in devotional service. So the impersonalists say, that that bhakti is like a ladder, and when you get to your destination, you kick down the ladder so you won't go back again. Once you achieve perfection, you don't do anything anymore. They don't understand rasa. That rasa has this anubhava. It has actions. There's ways you show your love. Does this make sense to everybody? Show your love someone. If some man says, "Oh, my dear wife, I love you very much," and he just stays on the couch all day watching the football game, he never makes any money, never actually does anything. So that's not much of a meaning of love, correct? Right? So love means you have to do something. So these are the things that we do even in our Hare Krishna movement. Because what we're doing in bhakti is practicing for our eternal relationship with Krishna. We're trying to do things that revive that relationship. Like someone who has amnesia, they're encouraged to associate with their family and try to go some of the places they used to go, do some of those things to revive their memory. So everything we're doing in bhakti is again what we would naturally do in the spiritual world. So to revive that and to practice for that. And we're going to look at this in this point in three different areas. One is our work in the world. Going to a job, taking care of our families, taking care of our bodies, our home. How in this way can we practice some of these anubhavas? And then we're going to look at this in terms of the two kinds of practice bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana and Raganuga sadhana. So first in terms of working in the world, so there's this wonderful verses in C.C. Madhya 16, 237 to 239. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is talking to Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami he kept trying to run away from home to serve Lord Chaitanya. And his parents kept capturing him and bringing him back. Which doesn't make sense to us today much for an adult. If you're a married adult, even if you were living with your family, just like Sri Arjuna and Padma, they're living with Champaka. But if they said, well, we want to leave and go to the Los Angeles temple, she's not going to hire guards to bring them back and tie them up. You understand? So perhaps this is a little incomprehensible to us in 2025 in America. But anyway, his family was doing this, and it was causing a big disturbance. So Lord Chaitanya said to him, "Don't be a crazy fellow. By and by you will be able to cross the ocean of material existence. You should not make yourself a show-bottle devotee and become a false renunciate. For the time being, enjoy the material world in a befitting way and do not become attached to it. Within your heart, you should keep yourself very faithful, but externally you may behave like an ordinary man. Thus Krishna will soon be very pleased and deliver you from the clutches of Maya." And there's a class I was hearing recently where Prabhupada was talking about that even people behaving in the world as if they're ordinary persons can actually be doing so in full awareness of Krishna. This is a lecture from Bhagavatam 2.3.14 to 15 in 1972 in Los Angeles. And Prabhupada was talking about Arjuna's son Abhimanyu and how he was a great military commander and yet a pure devotee. He says, so a great commander can also become a Bhagavata. A great merchant can become also Bhagavata. Prabhupada described himself as having been a businessman. Prabhupada said, so in my former life as a grahasta, I was a businessman, right? He was running a pharmaceutical company. And a great Brahmana, learned scholar, he can also become Bhagavata. There is no restriction. Not that simply one who is a Vedantist, who is a very learned scholar, he can become Bhagavata. No. The social system was so nice that everyone could become Bhagavata. The Brahmana could become Bhagavata, a Kshatriya could become Bhagavata, a Vaishya could become Bhagavata, or a Shudra could also become Bhagavata. So one sees one's work as service. We have developed, to some extent in our Hare Krishna movement, a mentality of being a world-denying religion. That our idea is just to separate ourselves from the world and engage ourselves in bhajan. Now we have some devotees, bhajan and under devotees in the Shastra who did that, Or some devotees who do that at the very end of their life, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur did that in his last 4 years. Right? So there's this system of varnashram, so when one becomes a vanaprastha, one becomes a sannyasi, one is not supposed to engage oneself in the things of this world. But in the prime of life, we do our work as service to the Lord. The Pandavas were not just fighting for a kingdom, they were also fighting to create a righteous government. Why? So there could be good government for the spiritual and material advancement of the people in general. Why do we want to have businesses? Why do we want to have agriculture? To feed the people of the world. Krishna wants people to be fed. He wants people to be taken care of. I mean, just like at our program last night, so many people were working so hard, so many hours, to make sure that all the devotees and guests were cared for, correct? Right? There were people who were dressing the deities, who were serving the deities, and then there were people also serving the devotees. There were people taking care of the property, emptying the garbage cans. It's like before I went to bed, I went and I was checking through the bathrooms, and the garbage cans had been empty and they had been washed and put upside down so it wouldn't rain. So that's just so the rain wouldn't get in them, and that's just as much service as offering flowers to the deities. One is thinking, I'm doing this to please Krishna. I'm doing this to please Guru and Krishna, correct? Yes? And one thinks like that in one's work also. If you're managing a bank, you want to have a proper economic system for the smooth functioning of the world. Now, by the way, this world is Bhumi Devi. This world is the consort of the Lord. So just like the pujaris on the altar, so someone now is dressing Srimati Radharani, yes? We have bugs in the garlands. So someone's dressing Krishna, someone's dressing Srimati Radharani. And when we're taking care of this earth planet, it's just like taking care of Srimati Radharani. It's just like taking care of Lakshmi Devi. That's actually what it is. So whatever one is doing, whether one is spreading knowledge in the world, whether one is providing for the peace and protection of the world, whether one is providing for the wealth of the world, whether one is providing for the beauty and functionality of the world, one is thinking, I am dressing the deity of the Lord. This world belongs to Krishna. It is just like when I am taking care of the world, it is just like giving these articles. And one should be meditating like that. When I'm taking care of my family members, my friends, they are all part of the body of the Lord. Prabhupada says each of us is a cell in the universal body. I am doing this to please Krishna as my service to Krishna. Now, this conception is not the same as serving humanity as serving God. That's a different conception, where people are thinking mundane work as mundane work for my ego is service to the Lord. But if one is thinking, I want to serve Krishna, what does Krishna want? Krishna wants his planet taken care of. Krishna wants his people taken care of. Not only the cows, even the dogs and the cats and the honeybees and the everything, the plants. This all belongs to the Lord. It's part of his body. Just like the Bhagavatam says, the hairs of the Lord's body are the trees. If we're taking care of the Lord's body, we're also taking care of the Lord's body in that way. And if we have this mentality, then everything can become an anubhava. Everything can become a way of showing our love for Krishna. This is Krishna's car. I wash it because it's Krishna's. Just like here, I'm going to give the Lord a bath. I'm going to give the Lord's car a bath. I'm going to give the Lord's floor a bath. And to do it nicely. Right? Not to mop the Lord's floor with a dirty mop. Just like you wouldn't clean the Lord with a dirty cloth. Yeah? Just like for the deities, we always have clean cloths. So one thinks, I should clean the mop. I should clean the bucket. This is for Krishna. All of this belongs to Krishna. And such service goes on in the spiritual world, just like we sing every morning, Nikunjayuno Rati Keli Siddhaya Yayali Bir Yuktira Pekchaniya Tatrati Daksha Nati Valabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. The Guru is arranging the area in which Krishna has his pastimes. Right? The queens, when they're arranging Shayanam, when they're arranging for him to go to sleep, I'm sure they're also arranging the bed. You understand? I'm not going to say, okay, I'm going to massage your feet to go to bed, but it's going to be an unmade bed with dirty sheets, and it's a mess, and we've thrown all our dirty laundry all over the bed. You're also going to take care of the bed. You're going to take care of the room. Ganda, offering the Lord Ganda, doesn't just mean putting sandalwood paste, as was in the translation. Ganda is much wider than that. Putting perfumes in the Lord's hair, perfumes on his body, and perfuming the room. Making sure so the atmosphere. So we're providing like that. This world it is the Lord, as Rukmini actually argues previously with the Lord. That Krishna says, I don't possess anything. She says, you don't possess anything because you are everything. So everything is the body of the Lord, everything is the property of the Lord, and therefore we take care of it in that mood. And then there becomes no difference between our doing our work and our meditating on doing a service in the spiritual world. Like Bhagavad Gita 4:24, everything becomes transcendental. And then we can say, all right, but we do also perform specific actions of bhakti. And that as practice bhakti, what Krishna calls abhyas yoga in the 12th chapter, is in two categories. One is Vaidhi and one is Raganuga. So in Vaidhi bhakti, it means that one has not yet realized, one does not have any impression yet of one's eternal relationship with the Lord. One doesn't know, am I a bumblebee, am I a cowherd boy? One is impelled primarily through faith in Shastra and faith in Guru, through logic and faith. So there's a very nice purport in Bhagavatam 6:16-44. Prabhupada says, from our present position, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be personally seen as the deity in the temple. The deity of the Lord is not different from the Supreme Lord. Because we cannot see the Supreme Lord with our present blunt eyes, the Lord has kindly consented to come before us in a form we can see. Therefore, the deity in the temple should not be considered material. By offering food to the deity and by decorating and serving the deity, one gets the same result that one derives from serving the Lord personally in Vaikuntha. So all these items that the queens are doing in Vaidhi Bhakti, we're doing for the deity. And we should meditate on how the deity is Krishna himself. Right? We have, of course, Radha Golokananda here in the temple. Some of us have deities at home. Prabhupada says those at home can have deities if they actually follow the rules of deity worship. He says otherwise it's an offense. That we see the deity is actually God. Just like if you have children or you have pets, you make sure that they're fed every day, right? You make sure your children are bathed. You make sure they have clean clothes. So Krishna's a person. He's in the house. So we take care of him. We see it's not just some, decorative art object in my house. But actually here is God. And the same with the holy name. Actually, there's a nice quote. I didn't have time to find it, where Srimati Radharani is saying that she's decorating the holy name in all the phases of time with many jewels in her mind. So we realize that the holy name is Krishna by having this mood. Let me dress the holy name. Let me decorate the holy name. Let me offer fragrances to the holy name. Let me actually worship the holy name. And then we meditate on everything we do in service is for the pleasure of the deity, the pleasure of the holy name, the pleasure of Guru, and the pleasure of the devotees. Then this becomes our anubhav. And then again, there's no difference between the activities of the queens in Dwarka and our activities even on this earth planet even with this physical body. But it's a question of our consciousness. I always like to quote this where Prabhupada was asked, do we make advancement faster if we live in the temple? And Prabhupada says that depends on whether or not your mind is on another subject matter. And we can think about, Krishna's having these pastimes in the material world. And there's many living entities there. They're seeing Krishna, they're interacting with Krishna, but because they have the wrong consciousness, they don't actually get devotional benefit, or very, very little. We have the demons who see Krishna, like Kaliya sees Krishna. And, oh, he's very beautiful. But he thinks, let me kill him. Right? Or Kaliyavana also. He's like, oh, here's Vishnu. Let me kill him. Shishupal, who insults him. Krishna's walking around in Dwarka, in Mathura, in Vrindavan even. And not everyone actually gets devotion. So Ravinda Suprabhu would like to tell this story of how one time Tamal Krishna Mars and Vishnu Jan Swami were visiting in Philadelphia, and they were having a program in the park. And so they were doing kirtan, giving a little talk, distributing prasadam, and then Tamal Krishna Mars was going among the crowd and talking to people. And Ravinda Suprabhu said, how do you decide who you should talk to? And Tamal Krishna Mars says, well, I asked them, did you like the music? Did you like the talk? Did you like the food? And if they say, oh, it was all right, then I don't talk to them. But if they say, yeah, it was wonderful, then I spend time to talk to them. So Ravinda Suprabhu said that he tested this. And he went around, and if someone said, yeah, it was all right, he tried talking to them anyway, but he found he was just wasting his time. Because there wasn't actually an attraction. I'm sure we've all had experience. We can be in an incredible kirtan, but we're not really there. We're not really there. Maybe we're worried about an argument we had with our spouse that morning, or we're worrying about, our investments, or we're worried about our car breaking down, or we're excited about some upcoming wedding we're going to, or something, and our mind is elsewhere, either our fears or our hopes, and we're not actually there. Right? We all have this experience, right? I mean, even in ordinary life, you're talking to somebody, and you didn't hear a word they said. And you're just like, I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please? I wasn't paying attention. And sometimes this inattention even creates catastrophes. Right? You're cooking, and if you're not attentive, you cut yourself. Any of us who've been in the kitchen enough, have we all cut ourselves? Yes? Anyone who spends enough time in the kitchen, you've definitely gotten cut and burned. For sure. Because then we're not really there. We're not really present. So for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, in order for it to be Anubhav, we have to be present. Again, all 5 aspects of rasa have to be there. If it's just mechanical service, then there's no rasa. And if we're thinking, why aren't I experiencing rasa? We have to have all 5. At least the Staibhav of Jivera Swaropaya Krishnera Nityadasa. At least that kind of Staibhav. I am a soul. I am a servant of Krishna. And to be actually feel some attraction to Krishna, doing this Anubhav out of that attraction. Mechanical dealings are not going to nourish and develop and revive a relationship. And then for those whose sadhana is in Raganuga, this means that by following Vaidhi sadhana, one gets some idea. Oh, I want to be Krishna's friend. I want to be Krishna's whatever. So here's a very, very famous verse, Madhya 22, 158, which is also in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12295. Seda sadaka rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi, tad bhava lipsuna karya, vrajra loka nusarataha. And Prabhupada's translation, the advanced devotee who is inclined to spontaneous loving service should follow the activities of a particular associate of Krishna's in Vrindavan. He should execute service externally as a regulated devotee, as well as internally from a self-realized position. Thus, he should perform devotional service both externally and internally. Now, we notice Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to Raghunath Das Goswami, when Raghunath Das Goswami was not Das Goswami, when he was a householder, where Lord Chaitanya said, behave externally like an ordinary person, don't be crazy, but internally nourish your faith. Now, after Raghunath Das Goswami renounces everything, then Mahaprabhu, this is from Ancha 6237, Mahaprabhu says to him, do not expect honor, but offer all respect to others. Always chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, and within your mind render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So that means that one's internal consciousness is not just, I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm doing this to please Krishna, but one's internal consciousness is my external behavior is really fueling whatever my internal meditation is. So if my internal meditation is I'm playing ball games with Krishna, or my internal meditation is I'm dressing Srimati Radharani or her friends for her pastimes, one is meditating on that while one is sweeping the floor, while one is doing one's job, as a pharmacist or as a college professor or as a loan officer or whatever one's job is, one then is internally thinking, this is the way I'm engaging in my eternal devotional service. And we notice here Mahaprabhu is talking about the same thing he says in Trinadapi, to be willing to do menial service, which very much relates to the queens here, that the queens are doing the kind of things that could be done by their servants. So even though they have hundreds of servants, and they could just say, hey, you servant, you come and fix the Lord's hair. But they're willing to fix the Lord's hair, right? Which we can think of as kind of a menial service, like a hairdresser or a barber does something like this. But they're doing it. They're making the bed. So this mood of I'm willing to do some menial service, whatever it may be. So we are not doing our work in this world, whether it's ordinary work or whether it's our sadhana, as just a means to an end. If we do it in the right consciousness, with the right mentality, with the right awareness, then we're actually practicing for our eternal service. And this is true whether, like Prabhupada, who was running a pharmaceutical business, or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was a magistrate, or, Abhimanyu, as Prabhupada gives example, fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, or Kolovich or Sridhar, making leaf cups, whether we're doing it in our work, whether we're doing it in our sadhana bhakti, we actually should be in this mood of practicing. And that then this verse doesn't just apply to the queens in Dwarka, some highly elevated devotees in a faraway place and time that has nothing to do with ourselves, but is actually what we should be doing all the time. Let's look at the verse again. What are the queens doing? They're personally serving the Lord. They approach him humbly. They offer him a seat, worship him, bathe him, massages his feet, give him pan, fans him, anoints him with fragrances, adorns with flower garlands, dresses his hair, arranges his bed, bathing him, and giving him gifts. So we have a couple minutes if anyone has. Yes, just to prove.
To prove our bhakti, it seems that the only thing we really have control of is the first one, which is to focus on Krishna and see everything as our, as devotional service to him. So how does that lead to the next levels?
By revelation. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, don't try to see God, act in such a way that he will want to see you. You'll get an invitation. That's how it works. Can't force it. You can't. That doesn't work. You can't, can't crash the party. So for each area and kind of advancement, it's mercy. We show our own eagerness. We show our own focus. We show our own dedication as much as we can with the sincerity we have at our disposal at the moment. Right? I can only give in charity how much money I have right now. Right? None of us, I think, unless some of you are hiding it, none of us can give as much charity to the temple as, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Because we don't have that much. So I can offer the sincerity that I have at the present time, and then Krishna, seeing that, becomes pleased. If Krishna could become pleased with Putin, he can become pleased with us. And so he sees that, and then he gives mercy. But that mercy is an invitation. The mercy is an invitation. I see a guest at the temple who's never been here before, happens all the time, and then I can give them an invitation. Would you like to see the deities? They're upstairs. Would you like some prasadam? It's through this door at this time. We had some guests here the other day. They were here at breakfast, and I said, this is a serve yourself buffet. You need to take a plate. And so I can give them that invitation, but they have to take the plate and put the prasadam on their plate. We can put the prasadam out, we can give them a plate, but they have to take it and eat it. So the mercy is given to us, and then we accept it. Is that all right? You can salt his oats. You can salt his oats. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
What a great class. Like always.
Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Jami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham
Rama Krishna Hayagriva Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayagriva Drishinhavamana Srimadhusudana Brajendra Nandana Syama Mana Srimadhusudana Brajendra Nandana Syama Putana Gatana Kaitaba Satana Jaya Dasarati Rama Harbo Tana Taktamba Satana Jaya Dasarati Ramu Yashoda Dulala Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Vrindavana Purandara Gopi Priya Jana Radhikaramana Bhuvana Sundara Bara Ravanantakara Makanataskara Gopi Jana Vastra Hari Gopi Jana Vastra Hari Brajera Rakala Gopa Vrindapala Chittahari Vansidari Yogindra Bandana Srinandanandana Brajandana Baya Hari Hari Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohana Vansi Vihari Radha Rupa Manohara Mohana Vansi Vihari Shoda Nandana Kansini Sudana Nikunjara Savilase Kansani Sudana Nikunjara Savilase Kadamba Kanana Rasa Parayana Brindavi Pinani Nivasi Dasaparayana Brindavi Pinani Nivasi Ananda Vandana Premaniketana Pulasara Jojaka Kama Ananda Vandana Premaniketana Pulasara Jojakamu Gopangana Gana Chitta Vinodana Samashta Guna Ganadamu Jamuna Jivana Kali Parayana Manasa Chandra Chakura Sudarasa Gao Krishna Jasa Rakko Vachana Manamura. Haribo. Babari Sesha Aloka Pravisha Nidra Chariyuto Jiva. Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Dhamma Krishna Hayagriva. Haribo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Jayo Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda Radhi. Jayo Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda Radhi. Jaya Giri Govardhana, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Sila Prabhupada.
incarnation. Vamana, dwarf incarnation. Killer of the team Madhu. Destroyer of the demon Kaitaba, and the victorious son of Dasarath, Lord Ram. Darling of Yashoda, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses, cow protector, Lord of Vrindavan, the gopis' beloved, lover of Radhika, and the most beautiful of all the worlds. Cause of the demon Ravana's demise is Lord Ram. Butter thief, robber of the gopi girls' clothes. Young herdsman of Braj, protector of the worshipped by the rest of the gopis. Nanda's joy, mover. Enchanting in form and charming while wandering and playing a flute. Yashoda's joy, vanquisher of the demon king Kamsa, enjoyer of the rasa dance among the forest groves, especially under the Kadamba trees, and resident in the woods of Vrinda. Increasing the ecstasy of his devotees, reservoir of all love, the transcendental Cupid who uses his flowered arrows to increase the loving, desiring desires of the gopis, the pleasure of the hearts of the old cowherd women and men, and the abode of the wonderful qualities. Life of the river, always absorbed in amorous pastimes, and moon of the mind, which is like moonlight feeding Chakorav's bird. Heed my words, O mind. These holy names are full of nectarian mellows. Therefore, sing the glories of Krishna. Jai. Chaitodarpanam marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Ananda Purivaranam Pratipanam Purnapita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundaram Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamae Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishameva Vambudau Kribayata Vabata Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galadashu Daraya Vadanam Gad Gadaradai Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Shigat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlisha Vapadamritam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmahato Karotuva Yatatata